couple rounds have been American stock car racing. But over in Europe, stock car racing means quite a different thing. And though TCR cars aren't quite totally stock, they are very much in the spirit of the roughshod touring car racing many have come to love. Front-wheel drive, quick and fun, these little bullets are made to run close. Will Zandvoort's tight and twisty confines allow them to get alongside one another to do so? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the Majors Race of the Netherlands. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel, the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren and Dawson Brock. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Hosting touring cars at Zandvoort just feels right. Though probably more famous for its years holding the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix, the intervening time saw lots of this sort of racing take place. Let's hop down to our track guide to learn a little bit more about the circuit. Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue. And see, there's a lot of different types of cars that have been raced around here, but today with the 10 tops, it's going to be an interesting one, Adam, because this is the first time both car and track have shown up on the schedule here in the majors.
Yeah, definitely, Joe. This is round 4 of the majors, and we've crossed an ocean to the now historic Circuit Zandvoort. Recently renovated for this year's on-hold Formula One season, iRacing boasts the layout as it was just a few years ago. Clocking in at 2.67 miles or 4.3 kilometers, Zandvoort's 13 turns really are like no other on the surface. This relatively narrow track features a good spread of high, medium, and low-speed corners, with the medium-speed corners proving to be quite the challenge for the car of choice for this round, the front-wheel drive Audi TCR RS3 LMS. It's that front-wheel drive train that has been causing headaches for many of our seasoned drivers, as this is one of a select few front-wheel drive cars on the service and by far has the most power and is the tightest strung of the selection. With the mid-speed corners of Zandvoort torturing the front tires, the drivers will be happy this round is separated into 2 races so they can get a tire change and let the brakes cool down a bit. But considering the points for this round are spread between the 2 races, it will be important to do well in both to walk away with a good points day. Speaking of the points, how are things looking so far for this season, Joe?
Well, starting off with the Drivers' Championship. This is the Pro Level Championship. Up at the top, it is Christian Challoner leading the way, and considering he has got it on pole here today, I'd say that he's doing pretty well for himself coming into things. 121 back to Wade Hayes, and that's going to sound like a lot of points, but again, you can see with how many Christian has accrued already 4 rounds in that the points will get very high, so that 121 is not terribly far apart from one another because they do get 500 for a win. Driscoll, Warling, and Barnes round out your top 5 in the pro driver standings, and it has been fantastic to watch thus far because it's been a very competitive season. And of course, we have the Teams Championship as well. And Dawson, why don't you run us down exactly how that's working out so far?
Well, right now at the top we have Kinetic Americas sitting at 3,520 points, and not too far back, Unorthodox Motorsports. They sit 430 points back. Then you have Dog Bear Red, Sector 5 Racing, and Dog Bear White. Now, Dog Bear Red is going to look to really try and make a push to get to that second place. They're only about 130, a little less than 130 points behind Unorthodox, so they could make a really big leap to go up into that second place and start looking ahead at Kinetic.
Yeah, if you guys think that it's very close between those elite teams, the premier teams are quite a bit closer. Forge Gold leading by 82 points over Kinetic America's Sport. And then Unorthodox Horizon only 187 points behind. They're both each a win behind each other. So this is going to be very close. Then we have Forge Silver and PNU Pneumatic Motorsports in fifth with about 676 points behind.
And of course, we have a Sportsman, which is the sister championship to the Pro. This is essentially your amateur championship. You have to be of a certain I rating to run in this one, and it is very, very tight amongst them. You don't necessarily get to see them race here in the Pro Split all that often. If they do get in there, it is a big points boon, and you can see is only 20 separating Deloach and Stevenson, and then only 6 more between second and third place with Johnson back there. Then it's a little bit of a jump before you get to Gelder and Gagaro as well. Only 4 points between fourth and fifth. Things really on the line for them to do well today to try and separate themselves. And one last points that we have here is, of course, the legends, Adam. And this is, as Bill likes to put it, those of a certain age.
Yeah, definitely. Legend standings are very, very close. We have Brian Barnes in the lead. He is in this race, and Kevin Hill is as well, but Kevin Hill definitely up ahead of Brian Barnes on the starting order, so Hill has an opportunity to make up some points in this race. And then we have Brian Bennett in the third position, 178 points back, with Wayne Hutchinson and Jimbo Pfeiffer rounding out your top 5.
And finally, we have the race details for today. I know we showed them just briefly, but here we go. We are in round 4. As we mentioned, there's 14 that we are doing this full season. The car that they run today is the new Audi RS3 LMS. We just usually call it the Audi TCR here on the sim. And as was mentioned, 2 races today at 22 laps and 25 laps. A little over half an hour for this first one that we're going to be running, the short one first. And then the enduro round will be about 45 minutes long. It is open setups and they have no fuel restrictions, so shouldn't expect pit stops, I don't believe, for either car during either race. And the incident cap at 16 is a strict incident cap. That's not a penalty. You will be disqualified if you hit that. They have a spare car, and that means if you run into any sort of damage, you can hop in and get a completely fresh car. And that is one for each race that they have on hand. Dawson, I know you got to actually get out there in the car today, and I talked about how this touring car style racing tends to cause close racing. So from your experience, do you think they'll need that spare car? Is there a lot of people that are going to wind up shedding some body parts?
Oh, for sure. I know that first lap, especially with these tires now the way they are, cold tires are very hard to race on, and you're gonna see it right away, middle of the pack. That's where a lot of the action happens. Somebody slips up and everybody just comes together, and there's nowhere to go. I tell you, but if you end up having to if you have to come down to pit road at all, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be finishing at the back end of the field, at least 20th, if not farther back. So don't expect attrition to be that high. It's not like you're going to be able to really work your way up, at least from what I saw in the European race. But yeah, if you have to bring it down pit road, you're in trouble. You're not going to have a good finish. Now, this is 22 laps. It's fairly quick. It's a sprint race. You're running all out. But those tires are going to be very important. The guys who you're going to be able to see as the race goes on, guys who save their tires are going to slowly work their way through the field. And I think that's something we got to watch, how these guys handle those Michelin Pilot tires.
Certainly watch and see who's handling how by the end of things. And we also want to remind you about our charity for this race. Each round has its own special charity here in the majors, and it's nominated by a driver each round, with this one being the Latvian Children's Hospital. And the Children's Hospital Foundation was established to help create the best possible conditions for children and their parents while staying at the Children's Clinical University Hospital. CHF has been operative since January 31st, 2001. For more information, you can find it in the link in the video description below. So definitely go and check that out. They raised $75 last I saw to donate to that. The way that they do that is essentially the drivers who want to put in extra qualifying have to pay for it. And where does that money go? Well, that goes to the Rounds charity each and every race. So big thanks to them. If you feel like giving, please go and click on the link in the description below. Right now, we don't have qualifying going on because, well, as I said, it's been set earlier in the week, Adam, and it's a separate qualifying for each race. So this is just the warm-up right now. And I have a feeling with this standing start, that qualifying could be pretty important because we don't get to see too many standing starts here in the majors.
Yeah, it could be very important, as well as track position being extremely important around here. So the standing start could be make it or break it time for some of these drivers. But if one of them doesn't get off the line well, or if they jump the start, that could really be detrimental for their entire race until the second race. Remember that I believe you have to complete 16 laps of the first race in order to be eligible for the second race. So these drivers aren't going to want to be too aggressive at the start of this race in order to make sure that they make it into the second race and get the full opportunity for all the points today.
And another thing to add to that, those 16 laps, if you get into a wreck early, you're going to want to get that car fixed and back out on track right away. These cars are now on this new damage model that iRacing has. You'll see bits and pieces. You'll see mirrors fly off, wheels, tires, everything. This car will self-destruct if it gets into a bad enough crash. So drivers are going to have to be especially careful to get through those 16 laps and not destroy their car to the point where they can't get back out on track and get those points.
And there are teams that are definitely looking for points in an important way. It was a bit of a bad race last round for Unorthodox, and they're about 430 back. But they are looking good here today with their qualifying. A lot of drivers up in the pro split and starting in great positions, so they could make up some of that ground. Really, the one that we saw come to the fore last round that unfortunately is not looking well is Sector 5. Now, granted, there is a bit of a difference here, Adam, because of the open setup and because of the unique way they do qualifying, is the Sector 5 guys may have qualified poorly, but that doesn't mean they'll do bad in the race necessarily.
Well, no, it doesn't mean they'll do bad in the race necessarily, but like we said, the track position, starting position is very important, so there's only so far they can go. They're all lined up towards the back of the grid, the Sector 5 guys. So we're looking right now at Brian Bennett as he's going around the track. And we're expecting to see Brian Bennett and Jimbo Pfeiffer be very aggressive at the start of this race because they're the ones who are going to have to make up points for their team. So even though they have three guys in the top split, expect to see those guys trying to cut through the field as quickly as possible. And that could either, it's make it or break it for them. So if they're not going to make it, they sure are going to break it.
Well, let's talk about the start here real quick. We're about 30 seconds away from when these drivers will be able to grid up. So it's a standing start in these front-wheel drive cars. These cars have a launch control sort of to them. It'll have a revving point that you can adjust. Each driver can, from I think 3,500 RPM all the way up to $5,000. These cars, you can adjust how you want to start. So we'll see what drivers have that finely tuned and have their car ready to really jump off the line when the green lights hit.
I'm taking notes right now, honestly, because I didn't realize you could do that in this car. So it's a good thing we got Dawson in here to help us get that inside knowledge. And I have to imagine the top teams have all been on top of that with the way they root out every little advantage they can get. The practice has just finished, so as the grid sorts, let's go through your starting order. It's going to be Christian Chandler on the pole with Travis Warling starting in second. Steve Driscoll, P3 today, with Andrew Waring in fourth place. Brian Strodbeck is back in racing again. Fifth place for him with Eric Smith in sixth. Matthew Thunhorse starts P7, and Justin Morton eighth. Kevin Hill ninth, and Scott Corbin rounds out your top 10, Adam.
Brian McGreevy is going to start off 11th with Dick Mueller in 12th. Lionel Calisto lining up in 13th position alongside Alessandro Dalladone in 14th. And we have Eric Intilli in 15th with Nick Kuhn 16th, Rob Gall 17th, Brian Bennett's 18th, Paul Prado and Johnny Nichols round out your top 20.
Just starting outside the top 20, Wade Hayes, he's going to start in 21st. The 81 machine of Richard McClure, 22nd.
And the green flag is already out as It's a horrible start for Travis Warling. He is already falling well back down the order. I hope we can get through Tarzan cleanly because this is going to be a little bit of speed that they picked up by the time they got to get on the binders for a sharp hairpin, a lot of banking. So various lines can be taken. So far, so good. And it looks like turn one was clean.
Remember how cold these tires are to start with. They're going to have to be warming up their tires this entire first and second lap, most likely. So expect to see these guys a little bit out of control as we start this race as they go through. Looks like we've gotten mostly single file back in the back of the pack. Scott Corbin, Dick Mueller, Brian McGreevy are all lined up, and now they finally singled out.
It's a good thing they finally get to single file. These tight turns here at Zandvoort, really difficult to go 2x2 with, but so far clean racing throughout the field.
Yeah, right now up at the front, you can see heading through Masters, that's Christian Challoner leading the way with a pair of unorthodox car trailing him. Would have been 3, but Warling fell down to 6th at the start. Track position on a track that is incredibly tough to pass at. Oh, he's going to regret that getaway as they now come out of Vodafone down to one of the few places that you can get a pass in up into Hans Ernst here.
And there's a little bit of chaos going on in the back with Wade Hayes, who has had a moment. He almost spun the car, but has gotten hit back on it, so he's now back going forward. But that was causing 3 wide action, 3 deep in the back of the pack.
Oh no, Brian McGreevy around. Brian McGreevy, Lionel Callisto, all in turns 12 and 13. And very rough.
Coming back onto the racing line too soon. Yeah, sorry there.
See a piece of debris sitting right there in the turn as well.
Yeah, and this was the Route 66 team, Joe. This is the members of Alliance who left Alliance and have decided to rejoin the new team, Route 66. So they both of them had trouble.
I think it was McGreevy and Dalladon who initially got together. Dalladon tried to take it way too shallow. You're going to see it as they come down into Hans Ernst. This is a very tight chicane, though, Dawson. It's hard enough to go too wide through here.
Yeah, it's a really easy corner to miss. I know right at the start of the week, Josh called this the corner that he misses a lot. And you can see just on these cold tires, you miss your braking spot just a little bit and you slide into that purple car of Brian McGreevy.
Yeah, and I could also...
Continuing. Go ahead.
Yeah, Joe, I can also say that Trevor Clement had a really scary moment through turn 1 in this last opening lap. He's okay, and no one else was involved, but he almost wrecked a couple of cars. He missed his braking point and shot across the track, but he's okay now. And everyone, slide on screen!
Oh, no!
More incidents. Someone getting into McGreevy?
And there's a tire off. Oh, no.
So this was into Sheevlock, and the car ahead was Jimbo Pfeiffer. I'm guessing McGreevy was maybe slowing up, seeing him spinning. Yeah, he was.
Just
and Warner gets into him. I think the tires stayed on. Some of the damage you will see as we watch from McGreevy's perspective. Boy, he took a hard hit to the back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that tire is still there. Yeah, it pops back on. So that is just, that's the nature of the internet. The server has to update a little bit to really show the accurate damage to the car. So never mind the flying wheel. As we come back to the leaders, Challoner leads, Driscoll leads Warling. That's still going to trip me up all season long. How many laps did it take, Dawson, for these tires to really get up to temperature?
It's about 4 laps, and what was interesting was you only had 4 laps to qualify, so you really saw how, in qualifying, how important it was to really get those last couple laps together. But in about another lap here, these guys will finally have enough heat in those tires to really take them a long ways. Now, the track temp all adjusts that, so a warmer track's going to warm these tires up a little bit quicker and so on, but about 4 laps is what you're looking at.
We're going to check out the battle between Van Horst and Morton. Matthew currently up in this 8th position, trying to hold off the number 9 of Justin Morton as they come up into Masters. This is the newer part of the circuit that was built in the 90s and the 2000s after the track was truncated. Very different from the rest of the track, which is mostly quick corners. You can see Justin still not finding any way by, even though he's less than a car length back.
Yeah, Justin Morton having put in a lot of practice to try and do this race today. This is his first time in the pro split in a road race for that TDR TCR car that he's driving right now and trying to put in a good result here.
Come out of Hans Ernst. Drops back just a little bit, so Thunhorst responding to the pressure well. Not missing much up at the front. It's just been mostly holding station with the front two kind of gapping the rest of the field. I did see good battles back in 13th with Rob Gall and Brian Bennett. They come out of Lyondike onto the main straight. How much draft was there, Dawson? Is this close enough for Bennett?
It could be. I know in our race I saw guys were actually snaking down this front stretch trying to kill that draft, and you're going to see here he's going to have a shot here. Just hits that braking zone. Yes, sir, he's going to get the pass done. Well done by Bennett.
It's going to move them into 13th. Behind them, I also saw a big train happening, and in fact it's quite side by side now between Deladone, who's trying to come back from his incident with McClure to his side, and they're going to come together once again.
Yeah, this one was a little bit of, that was definitely a coming together as they came through the corner. Oh, he's lost his rear wing as well. That is Richard McClure who's gone off. We're going to go on board here. This is from the back wing of Richard McClure here. We're going to take a look and see what happens.
Well, this is going to be a cool angle. You're going to be able to see this wing snap right off. Boom, there it goes, and the trunk open. But yeah, no, too wide through there is not a great idea. I had an experience here. I ended up wrecking in one of my races in that same exact spot, 2x2. It's just really rough to do through that turn, especially with the camber the way it is.
Certainly not a place typically that you can get away with that, and they certainly didn't today. You can see Deladone still has it back on track in his running, but already involved in two separate incidents, and we're only on lap 4. And I don't believe we have live stewards to take people out, but he's certainly going to catch the ire of them at some point, I believe. Look at 16th. Wade Hayes almost back to the bumper of Eric and Tilly, trying to get this spot away. They're coming out of Kumho now and into Lyondike. Once again, very good run here from the trailing car. That's Wade Hayes, who we ride on board with, number 33, and looking very strong coming off of Lyondike. I'm not even sure he needs the draft here.
No, and you could see that was a great shot. He got into that corner really tight and got a great exit off, and that's going to be able to lunge him just up the inside and give the position to him.
Yeah, and Eric came across. Yeah, Eric came across a little bit. I think we both saw the same thing, Joe. Eric and Tilly came across the straightaway a little bit and towards Antilli, and they got together a little bit going into that corner. Fortunately, with the new damage model and the new tire model, these cars are pretty robust, but that was probably a very scary moment for both.
You can get away with that slight contact, and as I said, these cars are built for it. They can beat and bang a little bit. They just don't want to hit it too hard. They still got quite a bit of challenge there. Now, up a little bit farther, Steve Driscoll, chasing Challoner, has dropped Waring behind him. It's about 1.3 seconds, but he's applying more and more pressure. It's come down from about 0.6 of a second down to 4 and even 0.3 at moments. So the 51 is trying to see what he can get away from the Brit.
Yeah, so Dawson, I'm very curious with him this close behind him, and this being the first race of 2. Is one of the strategies that Steve Driscoll could be using is just to hang out right behind Christian and not try and challenging for the lead, and maybe do that in the second race if possible?
Well, yeah, well, first of all, the tires here matter so much. You're going to see it. If you can fill up that mirror, if Driscoll can just put a little bit of pressure on Chandler and force him to go a little bit faster, maybe he can force him to burn his stuff off. I know it's really hard to drive when you have a car hanging out right behind you, so that could be one.
Meanwhile, on screen, Smith made a mistake coming into Tarzan. He was already being hunted by Brian Strodbeck, and the fireman has got it. He slips it through in Gerlach, and that moves him up to 4th. That's the first position gain he's had today.
This is such a good car track combination. It's so fascinating to see these front wheel drive cars tackle this track. We're going to take a look at a replay of this pass, but yeah, this is a very, very fascinating one because as we see, Stradbeck just really throws it straight into the corner, and a very aggressive pass there. We're going to see a little bit of how Stradbeck set up Antilli, though. That's Eric Antilli going wide through the corner. Stradbeck powers out through, and then he has to clip this curb, and it actually upsets the car because the steering and the power is not coming through anymore, and that means Antilli has to whoa up behind him a little bit, and that's just the fascination that comes with racing these TCR cars here at Zandvoort.
That was Smith, actually, that he overtook. But, yeah, it's a half a second between them now, so he's trying to distance himself. Behind Smith is Travis Warling, who, remember, started this race in second place on the front row with his other UDOX drivers. And now he's trying to get those spots back. You would think that by now he would have at least gotten one of them.
Yeah, P17 is a little bit of a train, though. Behind Brian Barnes, we have Alessandro Dalladone, Eric Antilli, and Lionel Callisto, who's actually to the outside of Antilli right now, and he's going to throw it in deep into that corner, which then becomes the inside around this sharper corner. So Antilli's going to lose the position right there. And Lionel Callisto, like we predicted early on in the race, these Route 66 guys being very aggressive after their spin.
I tell you what, look at Callisto go. No wing, no problem. That car, even without that wing, doing a great job in getting around Antilli to get that spot.
Among these drivers, you get an interesting bike rack going on the back of there. Jeff Schmeier, look at the inside, as Eric Antilli is going to be overtaken by another driver. So Jeff Schmeier now moves himself up into 20th, make that 2 positions. Here comes Trevor Clement, and he's able to get to the inside as they come up to Gerlach. Finally, Antilli gives up the ghost, so continuing to slip down the order. I was about to say, we've had a big climber in the form of Brian Barnes in 17th, the front of this group. Started 26th on the grid, up 9 spots in 7 laps.
Yeah, and if you keep your nose clean like he has done, you know, spots will come just as it goes. People are battling side by side. They both, you know, get off a little bit, and you can take both of their spots. As we're going to look at P7 here. Fun Horse, really close, looking to the back of Kevin Hill, who's got a good opportunity, but he's going to save it. Maybe wait until that front stretch with that long drafting opportunity going into turn 1.
If they do start fighting, you can see that red, white, and black car. That's Justin Morton hopping out of his K&N car, his Grand National for bootleg, to see how he can do on the roadside here in a front-wheel drive car. But we already knew that Justin is pretty versatile, and being in the top 10 and the top split here in the majors is no mean feat. Here comes Thunhorst once again, and Hill only mildly defensive. He doesn't cover him off completely, so Thunhorst takes the advantage of the opportunity. He gets it to the inside down into Tarzan, and he is through. So move Thunhorst now up into 7th.
Thunhorst in 7th means he's the highest running of those Route 66 machines, and he has been able to avoid the trouble the other 2 Route 66 cars have gotten into. And now making a pass on an unorthodox driver, this guy is really moving forward.
Nicely done. So the 98, his next target is probably going to be a little bit harder to run down because it's a whole 3.3 seconds to get to Travis Warling, who's still working on getting some spots. Remember, we talked about him slipping back to 6. He's on the back of Eric Smith, but isn't able to get by quite yet.
Yeah, Warling's been trying to make his recovery he's been trying to get that done, but Eric Smith has been proving to be very quick, and they're both catching up to Brian Stradbeck, who's ahead of them as well. So this is, you know, we saw Stradbeck get past Smith just a couple of laps ago, and Travis Warling is going to be the next in line.
And this pace isn't too bad, I have to admit, Dawson. I was looking at the gaps here and realized they're only, at least Stradbeck's only 4 seconds behind Christian Challenger. So it's not like they're falling off the leaders. That's still pretty darn close this far into the race.
Yeah, I noticed that in the European race, everybody kind of just held their gaps. It was very hard to make up ground, but it was very easy to lose it with a mistake. It's really hard to, I guess, gain ground and really hit a rhythm.
Yeah, back in 19th, Lionel Callisto just managed to get by Schmeier, and that kind of backed things up behind them. Trevor Clement and Eric Antilli were side by side coming out of Tons Ernst. Now, excuse me, they come through Ari Leindyke, and look at how close behind him Trevor Clement, actually almost shoving aside Jeff Schmeier. He's not going to wait until the straightaway. He's going to get wheel to wheel before they get to there. And as they pick up speed, 130 miles an hour, heading down into Tarzan, he's got the desirable inside line. Schmeier, is he going to try and fight back around the outside of this banked first corner? He is. And he's able to hold out. He's got the momentum. He's going to come back in front, and he'll deny him potentially as he chop him off. It's just enough room, and finally, Thunhorst gets through.
Yeah, he's going to open the door to Eric Antilli, who's on the outside now. He's been back there recovering his tires, but Jeff Schmeier doesn't look like he's done. He thinks he might have another opportunity at Trevor Clement as they come into the sweeping downhill braking zone that's coming up, and this might give an opportunity for Eric Antilli if he can take advantage of the...
Schmeier took an absolute perfect line through turn one. Nothing much more he could do, and got a great run off. But now he finds himself still sitting behind. That's really all you can do when you have that outside line. Now Thunhorst looking like he's driving away, or Clement, sorry.
Yeah, I'd say that Trevor's got things under control at this point. Unless he makes some sort of mistake, it's going to be difficult for Jeff to try and get back by, and they are starting to space out just a little bit in this small group. Let's head back up, because I see that P5 is continuing to close, and Travis Moore might have the run that he needs now, because they're on the front stretch, and the number 90 is about a car length and a half back. Just not quite there. They get on the binders, and he's not going to have a chance this time.
Yeah, Joe, I think he's really going to have to send it deep into one of these braking zones and surprise Eric Smith, because Eric is doing everything that he needs to do in order to cover off Travis Warling. This track is so narrow, and the racing line switches from left to right so often, it's really hard to get a good opportunity to pass around here and without just going side by side and losing a lot of time. So Eric Smith doing exactly what he needs, and Travis Warling's going to have to do something drastic here to try and make a bye.
Watch them continue into Sheaves Lock. Warlane's backed off a little bit, but he seemed strong last time through at the end of the lap. Let's see how he fared once we get there once again. Sounds like Morton is getting into a little bit of a fight once again. This is for 8th place, but he's sandwiched now. It's Kevin Hill in front of him, and there's two cars in front of it. It's Thunhorst with Hill being sandwiched, rather, in that unorthodox car. We ride on board with Justin Morton.
Yeah, and Matthew Thunhorst, I thought he was going to run away from Kevin Hill, but Kevin's been able to stay right on his rear bumper. But look at this, Justin Morton with a good exit. Kevin Hill, not as good of an exit off that last corner. Justin Morton may think about an inside move here, but no, he's going to brake a little bit early and try and set him up for that front stretch. If Kevin Hill keeps pushing like this, Justin Morton might be able to get a better exit going onto the front stretch, and that might be his opportunity to slip by.
Holding with him. And it is a bit of a cloudy day at the beach, Dawson. It seems like the cloud cover is keeping the temperatures down. Only 78 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface, but it's kind of windy.
Yeah, no, and that cold temp is going to give these guys a lot more grip. Now, I believe if everything holds the same, the next race is going to be a lot warmer, so it's going to be a big adjustment from drivers going from that cold track to that hot track here in the next race.
Yeah, it's only 10:30 in the morning right now, virtual standard time, and it's going to be noon for the next race. Meanwhile, the battle for the podium is getting ever closer. In fact, Strodbeck was phenomenal coming out of Hugenholz. And as we ride on board, just on the dash of his car, you can see he's almost pushing him up the hill. Warling just barely ahead of him. Not many opportunities to pass in this section of the course. They are going to slow it down a lot here, Adam. But if he stays close until they get back out of this infield portion, I think he could have a chance.
Yeah, and just look at the attitude of Andrew Waring's car. He is tossing that thing into the corners, and that is definitely the fastest way around, but it's also going to burn off your tires the quickest. Brian Strodbeck looking to the inside here. He's not going to quite get there, but Andrew Waring doing everything he can to keep Strodbeck behind. And Strodbeck, on the other hand, his car looks to be fairly calm.
Yeah, and that calm car is going to pay off here in about 10 laps. When we get down to the end of this race, we'll see maybe he's able to pull away. But right now, filling the mirrors of Waring, just waiting for a mistake. And it's really easy to make a mistake here with all these tight corners and very little track limits as he really cuts that final corner.
The Coming onto the front stretch now, and this is what Strodbeck needed to be right here under the rear wing as they start to come down into Tarzan. He's being reeled in. The slipstream's working well. And he's going to look to the inside. Waring doesn't defend. He manages to get in there. Is he going to be fully passed? Yes, indeed. Textbook maneuver from the 171. So the Buckeye goes from 5th on the grid to now on the podium.
Yeah, that was a fantastic pass. Great control under braking. Strodbeck showing his skill in this car. But looks like he might have burnt up the front tires just a little bit getting into that braking zone on that at the end of the front stretch, and so he's lost a little bit of time back to Waring, but watch him pull away as we get into these further braking zones. Andrew Waring and those worn tires, like you said, Dawson, starting to fall back.
Yeah, look at it, already a visible gap back to Waring. We'll see how much bigger that gets in these coming laps.
We're already halfway through the race, and back in 11th we got a bit of a battle forming, and this is Bennett and Corbin. In fact, that they must have had some side-by-side action because it looks like we got a replay. Here we go, down into Hans Ernst, I think.
Yeah, and they were side by side for a good half a lap, Joe, and this is just one part of their battle, and this just ended up becoming Brian Bennett's benefit just due to the nature of the direction of the turns going on to the front stretch, and Scott Corbin couldn't get a better run. But yeah, these two were side by side for half a lap.
Continued even onto the front stretch there as we come back live, and you can see that they've now finally distanced themselves from one another. Bennett taking advantage. So running in 11th, just outside of the top 10. And again, if you weren't here for the pre-race show, there are 2 races, and this one counts for half the normal points that they would get for their position. So incentive to do good consistently. Up at the front of this, the guy that's going to be getting 250 points if he stays where he is Christian Challoner. And Steve Driscoll continuing to hold him honest. Now, he hasn't been challenging here, Adam. It's about a second between them. So it's not pressure right now, at least extreme pressure. But Driscoll's, I mean, one mistake from Christian could allow Driscoll to get his nose in.
Yeah, but if I know Christian, he's going to trying to minimize all of his mistakes and just trying to run a consistent race. He's probably not pushing 100% right now. He's probably trying to judge the gap back to Driscoll, and Driscoll has been falling back, which implies to me that Driscoll's been trying to make a couple of moves here, and maybe they haven't been paying off. But Christian Challoner just in race management mode at this point, and that's exactly what you got to do when you're leading a road race.
I wonder if we could take a glance back at 7th spot once again. Thunhorst is still ahead of Hill and Morton. These 3 basically have been a train since we last looked and have not spread apart hardly at all. But yet I don't think we've had any pass attempts between them. I haven't really seen any dives off out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah, no, I've been tracking this, and no, there really hasn't been. It seems like they're really content to just ride here for the moment, but I just got a feeling about this. This is going to be one of them 2 to go, 1 to go big racing moments. You know, we always have these trail of 3 cars, and Morton in that popcorn spot. Eventually, he's going to, have to move up and try and make a move, and I feel like it's going to come really late in the race.
And Joe, I talked about it before, but look at the attitude of these cars when they go through some of the mid-speed corners, which I talked about in our pre-race. They're really starting to get those back ends coming out, and that's going to start to wear away their tires a little bit. So I think I saw Thunhorst and Hill both pushing very hard. Morton's been pushing as well. So these guys are going to get pretty scrappy at the end, like you said, Dawson. And I think it might get a little messy as well.
To come up towards Gerlach one more time, weaving their way down into one of the corners that has been reprofiled since they've scanned here on iRacing. Ruben Holtz now has some steeper banking, and they head their way up the hill over Hoensrug, which is literally Dutch for Hoens Ridge, apparently, and up into Schieflach. My director's laughing, but that's actually what it stands for. It just translates to Hoens Ridge. But we ride on board with Justin. I always thought this was a very tricky braking zone into this one right here, Dawson. That curved down right-hander.
Yeah, it's like many of these turns here, it's really easy, and especially in this TCR car, the way the car just wants to pull itself around in those braking zones is really hard. It's really easy to just mess up a little bit and find yourself off in the grass at the mercy of the walls. But we saw the pass earlier here through Hans Urs. This is a really easy place. You'll see guys where they go 2x2, and you'll see a lot of carnage. I know in the European race, at least 3 or 4 wrecks happened in that area. But a really interesting track. You get this run here, just going to take a little lift of the gas and then hit that apex and get a good drive off. You can see Morton not quite pulling. It looks like Hill's going to pull away a little bit here on this straight, but the draft will reel him back in, and he'll head back for another lap around this track.
Just something of a stalemate between these three for the time being. Let's head up a little bit farther, because Andrew Warren, now that he's been overtaken by Strodbeck, is starting to feel a little bit more pressure. Here comes Eric Smith into the mix now. And don't count out Travis Worling. He's a little ways back. It's about 2.5 seconds, but he has been gaining on both of them. He's got about 8 laps to try and get them to where he can actually make an attack. I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah, and Joe, right now Eric Smith is about 0.5 second to 0.3 of a second behind Waring, and I'm noticing that that's kind of the cushion. That's the bubble that it seems like a lot of these drivers are having trouble closing beyond that 0.3 second gap behind the cars ahead of them. And I'm seeing quite a few battles. We have the battle for 7th, the battle for 13th, the battle for 18th. They're all about at that 0.3 second gap, and these drivers who are behind can't seem to find a way around, and that's just the nature of how narrow and how winding this track is.
Right on board with Eric Smith right now, looking ahead at Waring. As they come down into Kumho here, this is going to be another good opportunity out of Lyondike. We've seen a few drivers use this to great effect, getting it nice and tucked in through this fast sweeping right-hander onto the pit straight, but I'd say that Waring's got this one relatively covered off. He is going to pull in Eric Smith. The 32 takes a little bit of a peek down to the inside. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Oh, and did we have Morton change positions here? Oh, thought I saw something happening there. So Thunhorst, Hill, and Morton stay where they are. Hill getting right up on top of him, though.
I was just about to say, Hill is really close. Maybe getting to that point where he's tired of riding behind and wants to make his move to get past Thunhorst. 52 machine looking really aggressive, and now kind of backs off.
Around 6 laps to go right now, Joe. So like, it's getting, wow, they are getting very aggressive into the corners. They're throwing these cars into the corners as fast as they possibly can go. Thunhorst feeling the pressure from Hill. Hill not letting up either. He's throwing it in as well. Just look at the body language of those cars as they go through the corner.
They head it down into Renault here, and he continues to get within, almost touching the bumper of Matthew Thunhorst. This is some real trust between both of them. Thunhorst could have been shaken off by him by now, but he knows he's not going to stick it in as they come down towards Hans Ernst one more time, and I don't think that anybody's going to be making a pass into here, weaving it into the chicane. Man, very, very strong on the brakes from Kevin Hill each and every time. If he wants to make a dive, he certainly seems to have the binders to do it. Ooh, we had a pass attempt between Nick Kuhn and Paulo Prieto. He didn't quite pull it off, but he managed to at least get a nose in down into Hans Ernst. He's going to get another bite of the apple here, I think.
Yeah, Nick Kuhn made a little bit of a mistake going into one of the corners. He braked himself, and Rob Gall actually made the pass. Paul Prado a little bit too far back to make the pass on the front stretch, so we're going to go take a look at the replay, and this is going to highlight Nick Kuhn's outbraking himself. He just on that outside line and just carries a little bit too much speed into the corner, pardon me, and Rob Gall able to make the pass there.
Nicely done. As we come back live, I can tell you that the battle for 4th is getting extremely close. Eric Smith is almost up and touching the back of Andrew Waring. The 336 has to survive for 6 more laps here as they come out of Masters and down into Renault. Looks like it backs off maybe just about a car length.
They're getting very, very close as they go through those corners. And Eric Smith, I think, got a little bit too close for comfort in those first couple of corners. So he's going to back off a little bit and try and set up Andrew Waring a little bit better through the next set and maybe get him onto the front stretch. But it looks like that front stretch is really the best place to pass unless you're right in under the bumper. And Eric Smith's getting pretty close to that. Oh, we've had a wreck. Wade Hayes, Paul Prado, and Nick Kuhn have gone around, it looks like.
When we were watching that one shortly ago, this was with Prado and Kuhn, who initially got together, and then I think, unfortunately, Wade Hayes narrowly avoids it. Let's see, we've got the replay here. So this is the initial incident you're going to see into Renault. So this very next corner. And then we definitely want an onboard with Wade Hayes approaching it, coming in blind and doing a fantastic job to react very, very quickly. There he goes right there.
Well, if we can get back real quick, P7, Kevin Hill has just made a pass on Matthew Thunhorse. Lunge into turn 1.
Oh, that's close.
Wow.
Really was, and this has been a long time coming between these two. Hill finally got the run that he needed, managed to get through. Actually, this looks very much like a touring car pass that you expect to see. This is into turn 1, and Thunhorse is actually going to give him a little bit of a nudge afterwards.
I'm just sucking up in that slipstream. Thunhorse not going to take any evasive maneuvers. He just gives him the inside and is going to try and cut it back. Maybe a little tap there. But Kevin Hill going to make the pass for P7.
And it looks, Joe and Dawson, like those tires are really starting to fall off for some of these drivers. We're starting to see passes happen all over the track. Eric Smith tried to make a pass on Andrew Waring on the front stretch and did not manage to do it, but he's still right underneath the rear bumper as well. So we're seeing a lot of action all over the track and just don't have enough cameras for it.
Well, and Adam, we were talking about this not long ago, that we were expecting maybe some drivers to save their stuff and then things would start to erupt at the end if they found themselves stuck behind someone. And that looks like that's exactly what's happening.
Yep, that's definitely what's happening. Eric Smith trying to make a pass on Andrew Waring for P4.
Yeah.
And he was unable to do so. Andrew Waring squeezing him through the corner. So as we watch the battle that's still going on between Kevin Hill, Matthew Thunhorse, and Justin Wharton up ahead of them, and Eric Smith and their teammate Andrew Waring trying to hold off all of this.
Yeah, he did actually get side by side. He was just pinched down in Lyondike. Smith's not going to like that. Is he going to get more aggressive potentially on Andrew Waring as they come out of Hugenholtz up and over Hoons Ridge? Let's see if he can start to gain. Is he have a decent exit? Looks okay. Not good enough to really try and challenge up the sheep block though.
Dawson, they tell you to race the track all the time, but how hard is it when you've got such a big car and such a big wing up ahead of you? If you're Eric Smith, how hard is it to race the track, especially when it's so technical like this one?
Yeah, it's really easy to just kind of get caught up in what the other car is doing in front of you. I know, actually, one of my teammates got yelled at because he was like, he complained about one of the cars going off, but he followed him right with, just because of how big these cars are and how limited your visibility can be right when you're right behind somebody. You get caught up in their tracks. And I think that might have something to do with how these gaps are just kind of not going anywhere. Guys get stuck behind guys and just nowhere to go.
Battle stays close for fourth, though Smith is not nearly as up on that rear bumper as he was before. This is where he had an opportunity last lap, and the distance has grown to about half a second, so certainly has lost ground this time by. Did he burn them off in those attempts? He's going to come onto the front stretch, and I don't think that's going to do it. And indeed, unless there's a huge outbreaking maneuver, Tarzan should be safe for the 336.
And we're seeing a lot of action all over the track. P14, the battle between Wade Hayes and Brian Bournes, along with Paul Prado and Lionel Kalisto, who's caught up. Oh, and look at this. We have a pass for P7 going on right now. That's Andrew Waring trying to hold on with Matthew Thunhorse going around the outside.
Kevin Hill to his inside, and he's managed to rebuff him, but he's going to stay side by side. Thunhorst around the outside of Gerlach.
Ooh.
They bang wheels, but they come out the other side, and Thunhorst by force moves himself up into 7th.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers still learning how strong these cars are with this new damage model. A move like that would have set both of you off track just a couple of months ago, and now these cars could do some beating and banging just like they do in real life, so it's awesome to see. But look at how aggressive Kevin Hill is on the brakes coming down the hill. Justin Morton right in behind him still has yet to make his move.
I have a feeling Justin Morton, we talked about the popcorn position a little bit earlier. He may be just watching and waiting to see how this plays out before he really sticks his neck out to try and get involved. Because if they keep fighting this hard, he could maybe sneak through both of them.
And with 3 to go here, he's kind of running out of opportunities. Going to come and get 2 to go here at the line this time. Is this race almost over? Go time is now.
There really is. I'm keeping my eyes in multiple places because we've got battles that are getting closer and closer. This is certainly one of the best. Up to 4th place. This is another that I was just watching. It looks like now's the right time to try and see if anything is going to erupt. A great run from Smith, and it looks like Warren knows it. He covers off down to the pit wall as soon as he can. Forces him to go wide, but again, a lot of banking around Tarzan. It can offer some odd opportunities for drivers. Not this time for Eric Smith as he falls back.
Just couldn't carry the speed around the corner, just couldn't get those front tires to lock in with the grip, and unfortunately that's going to put him behind. But look at this, Andrew Warren a little bit compromised into the corner, but Eric Smith just can't get that front nose pointed.
Opportunities are dwindling away for these drivers. They come through Slotemacher, now up into Sheevlock, who is right under there. If he's really daring, he could maybe try something, but no, not this time.
Yeah, we've seen that maneuver down the front stretch, the hugging the pit wall now by both of these unorthodox drivers, and I think it's a really big move. I think getting that inside line to that turn 1.
Down to the inside of Renault, but wow! Successful defense around the outside from Waring. Now he's really going to send it in deep, and he actually gets into his side, shoves him out of the way, and Waring has to give up the spot as Smith moves back into 4th.
That's not going to make any friends for you at all. Andrew Waring is not going to like that, but I don't think he's going to have enough time to get back to Eric Smith by the time we get around. We're coming to the white flag this time for Christian Challenger.
It's intense behind them as well. Thunhorst is leading Hill and Morton. Hill actually had to go defensive down here into Hans Ernst just to keep Morton from managing to have a chance to try and overtake. They stay in position though.
As Christian Challenger takes the white flag, these battles are erupting all over the track.
I wonder if Warren got a little bit of damage from that because he's fallen back very, very quickly and certainly looks no threat to Smith. There you see our leader right now taking his final lap. We're not missing anything at the battles we were watching before. They're going to stay in position. Really only 2 good places you can try and overtake at this track. First one's already gone for all of our battles up in the top 10. That's into Tarzan. Next one probably going to be into Hans Ernst.
Something to keep in mind, Kevin Hill will be the 4th finisher for Unorthodox, so his points will not go towards the teams.
And Lionel Callisto's been sent around off of the nose of, I believe that was Trevor Clement. So we're going to take a look at that once the race is finished.
It might have been Paulo Prado, I think. But we'll confirm that in a little bit because as Christian Challenger comes down, he's only got about 4 or 5 corners left to go in the first race of the day. It's been clean. He saw a little bit of pressure from behind, but he's responded well because Driscoll is nowhere in the picture, quite literally 3.7 seconds behind. There you finally see him come in there. That is the distance he has managed to pull since we last really looked at anything of this kinetic driver. Christian Challenger up and out of Lyondike. Strong first race for half points for the day. 37 is your winner. Driscoll follows him home in second. And how about Brian Strodbeck from 5th to the podium? 3 cars in the line. Still no battle for fourth as Smith has fallen well behind. Thunhorst staying ahead of Hill, staying ahead of Morton, and it's going to stay that way to the line. A little bit of a fight for 12th as Corbin is holding back Gall. Gall can't get the launch that he needs. Same thing with the cars behind them, where Wade Hayes is going to finish ahead of Brian Barnes.
And one of our final battles, the battle for 19th, Jess Schmeier is just going to beat Eric Antilli out of the final corner, coming home for that 19th position.
And then we talked about him earlier having a wreck on the last lap. Kalisto winds up 23rd. I understand we've got a replay on that. I didn't actually get to look too closely at it, just a quick glance before we had to duck away. Adam, you got a better idea of what happened here. Talk us through it.
Yeah, this was a side-by-side battle they were doing through the first couple of corners, and it just looks like they kind of coming together as they came into one of the twisty corners. A little bit of netcode caught him out, and that unfortunately spun him around into the tires. Not a lot of damage, but this late in the race, no chance to recover. That puts Lionel Kalisto down in 23rd.
And credit where credit is due. We mentioned Deladone having some problems early on. He's actually already apologized over the chat, so he's already remorseful. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the results of this first race as well as some driver interviews between races. There is more action to come, so don't go away. Welcome back to Zandvoort. We just watched race 1 of 2 here for the Race of the Netherlands for round 4 of the majors, and Christian Challoner went lights to flag today, never relinquished the lead, and finished about 4 seconds ahead of Steve Driscoll. The UDOX driver still took home good points, but considering Christian is leading the points right now, that's not going to help him where he needs necessarily. Ryan Strodbeck, who started in 5th, wound up completing the podium with some great moves today. And Eric Smith got a P4, moving up 2 spots himself. Andrew Waring going down a little bit. He wound up in 5th with Travis Warling in 6th position after starting on the front row. Just couldn't recover from that horrid start he saw. Matthew Thunhorst in hard fights all day long wound up 7th. Kevin Hill in 8th, and Justin Morton in 9th. They were kind of stuck in those positions all day. And Adam, it's Dick Mueller who rounds out our top 10.
That's right. Brian Bennett's going to come home in 11th. A good climb from him. 7 places up. That's hard to do around here. Scott Corbin fell back 2 places down to 12th position with Rob Gall in 13th. Wade Hayes comes home in 14th position. A good climb from him from 21st starting position, along with Brian Barnes, who's up for about 11 positions up to 15th. Then you have Paul Prado in 16th and Trevor Clement coming home in 17th position, with Nick Kuhn coming home in 18th, and then Jeff Schmeier and Eric Intilly round out your top 20 finishing positions for race 1.
And we saw a little bit of problems here deeper in the field, but we're going to go through these last 7 cars. Alessandro Del Dion going to finish in 21st. David Warner, 22nd. Lionel Calisto, we saw he finished with a bike rack on the back of his Audi. He's going to finish 23rd. Jimbo Pfeiffer, 24th. 25th. Richard McClure, I saw his car was very beat up. Johnny Nichols going to finish in 26th, and Brian McGreevy, the only car not to finish on the lead lap, he's going to finish in 27th.
They had multiple incidents today, unfortunately. Looks like we're going to be talking to our second place finisher. Steve Driscoll joins us. Steve, it's a good news, bad news situation, because the good news is that you've got another chance to try and get one over on Christian Challenger. The bad news is he gets half points and continues to extend his lead.
Yeah, there's not much I can really do about it with the wrong wheel drive cars. I'm happy with second place considering I didn't think I had top 10 pace to start off the week. So I just look at this as championships are won on your bad weeks, and if I end up P2 in both races or something like that, and Challenger walks away a little bit, I'll still take that because it's good points haul.
A good perspective take on it. The other perspective you could have is thinking of the team game as well. We said coming in, Unorthodox, who had lost a little bit last round, finds himself in a chance to regain some of that points. And I'd say, considering the results, at least the first race has racked up a few points for your team.
Yeah, the Direct Innovations UDOX cars, as a team, we just came together really well this week, and really looking forward to seeing how big of a points haul we can kind of get out of this. Hopefully the second race isn't as eventful for some of our teammates, and we can get a really good points haul out of this.
And speaking of that second race, is there anything you learned from this first one that you think could help you, give you a little bit of an edge next one?
I'm not really sure. The second race, I'm going to guess, is going to be a little bit greasier, so maybe I can go a little bit harder on my tires because my tire wear was a lot better than I thought it would be. But it's going to be a tough battle to try to keep up with Christian. He's blazing fast, especially about halfway there. He just kind of took off there, and hopefully I get to see him for a little bit longer this time around.
Well, speaking of Christian, that was Steve Driscoll who finished second, but Adam has caught up with Christian, our winner here today, who led every single lap. Let's bring in the current points champion and see how his race went.
Yeah, Christian, fantastic race for you today. Lights to flag. It looked like you were managing your pace a little bit halfway through that race. How was it out there for you?
Yeah, it was pretty tough. It was mainly got a good getaway at the start. I didn't lose any spots, so I was really worried about that because pole's on the outside, and I thought that if I got kind of a bad pole, I'd be really vulnerable to second, who I think was Travis Walling, but he looked like he just didn't get away at all. So once I was kind of clear down in a 1, I was a bit worried about Steve Driscoll at the start of the race because in practice they look like they've got really good short run pace, and I don't for some reason. I seem to have good long run pace, but it makes me a bit vulnerable those first 5 laps or so. So it was tricky just making sure I didn't make any mistakes and keep him behind me until kind of I got comfortable, and then yeah, in the middle I was kind of at my best, and it was just, I don't want to say it was easy, but I was in a good rhythm, and it was a pretty normal race from there.
Yeah, so talking about the middle with Steve Driscoll behind you, he was within a second for a good portion of that race. Did you ever feel pressure from behind, or did you feel like you had it under control?
Yeah, I definitely felt like he was there. I felt like a couple of times he was close enough to try and make a move. I was always looking down in a 1 and really trying not to make any mistakes into there, because if you just outbrake yourself a little bit, you carry no exit speed out of there, and then you are vulnerable down into that second hairpin. So I was worried about Steve, especially when he was within about a second. Once he got outside of about a second, I felt quite comfortable at that point, and I was able to pull away a little bit. The draft wasn't as strong.
All right, Christian, any hints on what your strategy is for the second race?
Honestly, it's to make it as boring as possible, I'm afraid. Exactly the same plan as the first race. if everything goes well and I come away in the lead at the start, then yeah,
You've upset our director, Christian.
Yeah, I had a feeling I might. I've probably upset my own stream as well. But yeah, the goal is unfortunately to make it as boring as possible.
All right, Christian. Well, thanks for talking to us, and we look forward to seeing you race in the next race.
All right, thank you guys.
It was first place finisher Christian Challenger. We've got fourth place Eric Smith, who had a nice little fight partway through. Dawson is talking to the V-Apex driver.
Yeah, you were able to get around and get into that fourth place spot right away. Can you just talk about how that pass was to get up into that spot?
God, it's so hard to pass here. I hate making passes like that, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I thought I was getting a little argy-bargy with him there, but after watching the replay, I think he came more left than I went right. So hopefully he's not mad at me.
Yeah, no, it seemed like you weren't the only one using those types of passes. Just with these cars, that's just how they race, and especially around this tight of a track, that's just how it's going to be. So what are you thinking for next race? How are you going to try and improve on this? Anything you're going to change?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think I've fully even gotten this car. I'm a little off pace of where I'd like to be. So to come away with a fourth, I'm pretty happy.
What about the tire wear? Do you think, is there anything you got to do there? Maybe save a little bit? Or do you think you were right dead on where you should have been?
Yeah, I think I'd like to have more pace early on because Brian got around me there, but I was able to pick it up later on. I was able to catch up with Andrew, who was running away from me about 10 laps earlier, so I was pretty satisfied with.
All right, well, that's Eric Smith, your fourth place finisher. He's going to go into this next race, 25 laps. That's 3 extra laps, and see if he can improve and maybe get another great finisher in the top 5. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
That was Eric Smith finishing fourth here today. Adam, you looked like you had a note for me here.
Oh, no, I was just saying that we're about to jump into the next session, so we're looking forward to it.
Well, I am too. That was a fantastic race. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment with race 2, so don't go away.
I can still remember what it was like the first time I stepped into a race car. The sound of the engine, the anticipation, but I never could have imagined where this journey would take me. My father once told me that racing is just like life. You have to stay on your toes because you never know what's around the next corner. Bill Watson. This is my story.
Averaging 0.10 gallons per lap.
Pit stop, add 5 gallons, change right side only.
Hit box in 10, 9, 8, 1. Bingo. 10-4, adding 5 gallons, changing right side tires.
Welcome back to Zandvoort. We're getting ready for race 2, and boy, have the skies cleared here for the race of the Netherlands. It is noontime, and it is a little bit warmer out, 92 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. It's a longer race here today. So why don't we talk about that upcoming race? Joining me in the booth here is Adam Lindgren and Dawson Brock once again for race 2 of 2. And it is going to be a 25-lap race this time that we are doing. You can see, as we mentioned before, if you're just joining us, it is open setup and they have no fuel restrictions or no fuel stops during this race. They do have an incident cap. Didn't really see, even though there was some beating and banging, I didn't really see a whole lot of offs from drivers that anybody seemed in danger of that. Everybody managed to finish in the end. And once again, they have a new spare car ready in the pits if they run into damage. So, time to analyze, since we got about 3 minutes left here in the warm-up, about what we saw last race. Dawson, you got to race, and it's another thing to be up in the stands watching things. So, I mean, I'd love to know your thoughts first about what kind of eye-opening stuff happened for you.
Well, one was just the racing, especially in that mid-pack. I didn't qualify very well. I was near the tail end of my race, so I got caught up, and we definitely saw it. You know, Lionel Calisto and those guys in that group. It seems like in that mid-pack is where you get guys who kind of slip back, and you just get a whole pack of cars. It's keeping your car clean if you maybe got into an incident last time to really improve your time or your finishing position. Secondly, this track is hotter. It's 14 degrees hotter here. It's going to be 92 as it sits. A lot more sunny, so that's going to be another thing. If your tire wear was bad last race, you can make an extra 3 laps. So make sure you take it back just a little bit and improve that tire wear.
And Adam, we talked about it in the post-race show and the interviews as well, that the point situation is both spreading out and closing together. I guess spreading out in the sense of the Drivers' Championship. Challenger continues to extend his lead over everybody, but it's closing in on that Teams Championship. Unorthodox has just looked fantastic today.
Yeah, Unorthodox has looked very good. They're running right up at the front, exactly what they need to do. And that elite team standing is before this race, and so they've definitely closed a bit on Kinetic Americas. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they put the challenge to them in the races going forward. And especially in this race, it's going to be very fascinating to see whether or not they can have similar results.
So again, the qualifying was set earlier in this week, so we'll go over that in just a moment when they grid up. It was a very quick grid last time, so we'll try and get that all in. As these warm-up laps essentially are all just practice for the drivers to try and adjust to the conditions. Hopefully the extra temperature won't catch too many of them out. These teams probably were spending a lot of time making sure they've got a basically a setup that works for anything, or different setups for different conditions. The big difference I'm seeing, besides the temperature too, is the wind. Did these cars feel pretty susceptible to the wind, Dawson, or are they pretty stable?
It didn't seem like the wind was making too big of a difference. It wasn't noticeable in any corners, but I know if it starts to pick up maybe past that, maybe you'd have to look at it, but just with 5 miles an hour that it is right now, not too bad for these cars.
Let's continue to watch from Justin Morton. Boy, he had some fun last race in the mid-pack, battling for what was 7th, but he wound up 9th, just stuck at the tail end of the field. As now the warm-up finishes, we've got the grid ready to set. So why don't we go through our starting order for race 2 of the Race of the Netherlands today. Up at the top of the orders, we wait for that to populate, actually. There we go. Christian Challenger is on the pole with Travis Warling in 2nd. Then it's Steve Driscoll starting P3 and Andrew Warren in 4th. Brian Strodbeck, P5 for him, with Eric Smith in 6th position. Matthew Thunhorst will start 7th once again, with Justin Morton in 8th, Kevin Hill in the 9th, and Scott Corbin in 10th.
Brian Vergebe starts off P11 with Dick Mueller in 12th. Lionel Calisto starting off 13th with Alessandro Deladone in 14th. Eric Antilli and Nick Kuhn 15th and 16th. Then we have Rob Gall, Brian Bennett, Paulo Prado, and Johnny Nichols rounding out your top 4.
Wade Hayes is going to start in 21st. Then it goes Richard McClure, Trevor Clement, Jimbo Pfeiffer 24th, David Warner 25th, Brian Barnes 26th, and rounding out your field, Jeff Schmeier in 27th.
And with With that, everybody is already out on the grid. So the lights are up, the engines start to rev, and the green flag is out for race 2. And once again, Travis Worling does not have these starts down. He is very slow off the line and shooting up through the middle from 4th place into 2nd. It's Andrew Waring past his UDOX teammates.
It's complete chaos behind them. It was almost 5 wide across this short front stretch down in the 15th, 16th positions. Lionel Callisto also got a bad start, so he's back there mired in the positions, and they're still 2 wide as they go through some of these twisty corners. Very close racing there for 4th and 5th.
And it's Eric Smith versus Brian Strodbeck once again. They're going to stay.
Oh, major wreck in the back. Lionel Callisto's in it again.
No.
It's a massive incident.
Oh, and it's almost a track blockage, actually. A lot
Lionel
of cars
Callisto.
involved. We'll come back to it. Oh, yeah.
Lionel Callisto, Wade Hayes was stuck in that corner for a good 10 seconds. Oh, no.
So,
Well, the lead is still very intense right now with Travis Worling, Steve Driscoll, Andrew Waring side by side. And oh, we have a car off in the background. That was Kevin Hill.
One of our UDOX drivers hard into the wall, and he's trying to come back on while in the middle of traffic. We'll get back to that in a second as we continue to watch the leaders. Waring under threat for 2nd place. Driscoll wants it back, and he's got a good run coming down into Hans Ernst. Let's see. Doesn't look like much of a fight from Waring. I think he knows the team game is on play here because they've got 3 drivers as a big slide from Driscoll heads into the corner. This could give the spot right back. Waring tries to go for the over-under, but it's not quite there, so they're going to stay in position. But Challoner a second ahead by the time they come to complete lap 1.
Yeah, and Dawson, you said that these extra temperatures and extra tire wear was going to start to make things a little bit more chaotic. We've seen that already just in this first lap of the race, things being chaotic, and now everyone who's made it through trying to make up position.
And we saw, last race, Steve Driscoll, he started out pretty close to Challoner, and then Challoner slowly walked back to that 3.5 second lead he had at the end. As we're going to see Waring maybe look to the inside of his teammate, not going to make the pass. Driscoll going to stay in P2.
Yeah, Driscoll's once again sliding a little hard into the corners. What if he's not used to these cold tires after spending so long with them all warmed up last race? And I can tell you that Lionel Callisto, who traditionally saves his spare car until very late, is doing so again. He's taking repairs, which means he's already a lap down. Now, I believe, well, let's wait on the replay, actually, because it looks like Worling and Eric Smith are very close to one another. We can see it on screen heading into Masters. Let's see from Eric's point of view as we ride on board. He gets right underneath the rear wing, but can't quite get it in there. Oh, this is where he got aggressive last time. That covers him off as Worling sees it behind in his mirrors and makes sure and blocks the inside line.
Yeah, Travis Worling is not going to fall prey to that same move that Eric Smith made on his teammate last race. So Eric Smith having to find a different way around. And also, Matthew Thunderhorse has been struggling a lot in these first couple laps. He's been sliding his front tires as well in that Route 66 machine. So a driver who did really well last race, struggling to get these tires up to temperature this time.
Let's see how this plays out on the front stretch, and then we should have time after that to get this replay in, because once again, Smith's still putting a lot of pressure. Sorry, Dawson.
Yeah, no, just sliding those tires early can really make a big, race-long difference in how your car is going to perform. So really important these first couple laps to keep it all under control. Eric Smith not going to make the move into turn 1, so I believe we're going to go and take a look at that replay real quick.
Yeah, let's see exactly how this unfolded. Callisto getting the worst of it. I didn't even see how this started.
Yeah, this was actually a bottle up from them going too wide through these twisty corners, and actually Lionel Callisto trying to go through. It wasn't even his fault necessarily.
Prado was the one to first make contact, just basically causing a chain reaction in front of him. There's that yellow and black car right there, just bumps into the car in front, and that just every car in front is a domino.
See in the background, I believe that's McClure and the blue car just losing it, but he's okay. But the real story right here is this bottleneck. These cars get sideways, nowhere to go for the other drivers. As we said, Wade Hayes, he was stuck behind a turned car in that corner for at least 10 seconds.
And that's one of the parts of the track where the barriers are almost right up beside the pavement on both sides. So very hard to try and get around anybody. Meanwhile, fourth place still very close. Warling, who tries to hold chase with Waring ahead of him, is instead having to look at a mirror full of Eric Smith, still running him down. And how about Brian Strodbeck in sixth place here, as he's lost a position at the start, but is trying hard to see if he can go on the attack on the 32.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Joe, I think Strodbeck's the story here. He seems to definitely look the most comfortable in these hot temperatures right now. And Strodbeck taking lines that not many guys are able to take right now, so he's definitely set up the car for this. But losing a little bit of speed off of that final corner, he's not going to have an opportunity to make it past Eric Smith. Another thing I want to talk about, Joe, is that gap into the leader for Steve Driscoll has closed to about half a second from where it was a second on the first lap.
Big slide there from Eric Smith, and he's going to catch it, but just in time to keep Strodbeck from managing to get side by side. We're watching from Driscoll's perspective up to Christian Challenger. He said he felt vulnerable at the start, and it certainly seems that Driscoll gaining half a second on him in just a couple laps says to me that that wasn't just Challenger blowing smoke.
Yeah, and you can see maybe at the top right of your corner, Driscoll has put down the fastest lap of the race twice in a row now on the second and third laps. So really coming after Challenger, we're going to see maybe, wanting to act early here in this race and try and get that move done right away.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be his best opportunity is to get it done quickly, because we know how good Challenger's long run pace is. We saw it last race. We heard him talk about it, but also that long run pace is going to take a little bit longer to set in now because of these higher temperatures. And so if Steve Driscoll can get to the back of him, this might be trouble for Challenger.
A little bit behind them, we've been keeping an eye on that battle for fourth, which seems to have separated, actually sort of become a battle for third, because Warling dropping Eric Smith now and closing in on his teammate of Andrew Waring in the 336. There you see it on screen. They're still not terribly far apart from one another. This front stretch could make the difference on that. Let's see if anybody gets the launch.
Boy, I don't think they want to do that right now. Right now you've got a purple metallic unorthodox train going right here, and a pass for third could really open a spot for Eric Smith to really gain. As you see, Christian Challenger was 2/10 faster to get the fastest lap back.
Tires are now heating up and the cars are getting comfortable. So looks like those who are quick are coming to the fore, as once again Warling continuing to close down on Waring. Now it's down to 0.2 of a second, and that looked like a great exit coming out of Hugenholtz. It's rare to get passes done in a sheave-lock if you're brave. Only lap 5 at 25. It's not quite the time in my mind, but we'll see how Warling feels.
Well, I'm thinking is there might be some not team orders, but some team agreement going on here to let Travis Warling by, because he sure looks faster than Andrew Waring at this stage in the race. And with Eric Smith breathing down their back and that V Apex car behind them, the black and green machine, they're going to need to get moving. So if Travis Warling can pull them up back to the back of Steve Driscoll and catch up to Challenger, then that might be the best move for them as a team.
So full disclosure, I have actually raced on an endurance team with Brian Strodbeck multiple times. And so I'm pretty familiar with how he drives. And the thing that I feel like should be a worry for these three in front of him is not only is he very quick, he's consistent. He doesn't really make mistakes. So he's going to be putting down lightning laps once he's comfortable, as Andrew Waring, unfortunately going wide and off into the grass, is going to sacrifice the position. And here comes Warling getting on through, so that's going to bump him up to third.
Yeah, see, Joe, that's exactly what I was talking about, just like they planned it.
So, onto the front stretch. Could he lose his second position? You warned about this, Dawson. It's going to allow Eric Smith to have a chance.
Yeah, and you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't switch those cars out and get the faster car out in front, you could risk both of them going back down as they really bunch up. Strodbeck getting really close to Smith's bumper. Not going to be able to make it happen.
Took some paint off of it, to be honest. They come through Gerlach as we ride on board with Brian now looking at Eric Smith. It's once again just a domino effect that we've seen a couple times here already with these cars. As soon as someone makes a move in front, everybody else tries to capitalize.
not only is it a domino effect, but it's also becoming a little bit of a train. We've got Matthew Thunhorst in 7th place catching up to the back of these guys as well. So as we're on board with Brian Strodbeck, we're going to start to see in that rearview mirror, you can see it right now, Matthew Thunhorst right there in that yellow and black machine of that Route 66 racing truck.
Driver that loves this the most is Steve Driscoll. Really has no worries from behind because all this fighting has dropped them off. It's about 3 seconds from Worling up to Driscoll. There we see the two leaders. Steve keeping him to about half a second. Now this is very, very familiar. As Yogi Berra once said, it's deja vu all over again. And that's actually not a good thing for Driscoll, I'd say, Adam, because, well, we saw him hold right there and then suddenly fall away halfway through.
Yeah, I think Driscoll's going to have to risk everything to try and pass Christian Challoner early on, like probably in the next couple of laps. Otherwise, he's going to start to lose Challoner off that front end because we saw this happen last race. So Driscoll, this is the opportunity that he has for having run a second race. He gets to see what the tires do, what Christian does on these longer runs. He needs to do something desperate and drastic right now to get past Challoner. Otherwise, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. You know, if you look behind Driscoll, it's 3.5 seconds to a teammate. That's, you know, worst case, you burn your stuff up and you're able to drop back that far. So that's not the end of the world for him. So I definitely think it's go time for Steve Driscoll right away.
Just beginning to ride on board with our leader, looking back at Steve Driscoll. I can tell you that pack of 5 battling for third have not spread apart, but they've also not changed positions since we last looked, and the distance is very apparent from the onboard shot that we were on because you couldn't even see them on the hillside as they were coming through. Now we see them from the TV cams and heading through Sheevlock. Worling trying to make good of the open air that he has in front, and it seems like he's stretching away a little bit. He's got up to half a second now over Waring, and that certainly will make him feel a little bit more comfortable in things.
Yeah, Joe, this is exactly what they want to see. I know it wasn't Andrew Waring's choice to get passed by Travis Worling because of the off-track that he had, but look, it is making them faster. It is making them more defensible. And now Andrew Waring can serve as a rear gunner for Travis Worling as they try and pull themselves up to Christian Challoner and Steve Driscoll, keeping the likes of Eric Smith, Brian Strawbeck, and Matthew Thunhorst off their tails.
Speaking of Thunhorst, this is sort of a tale of two races for him. The last one, remember, he was in front of the train. He was playing defense on them. Now he's put in the reverse position to see what his chops are on overtaking. He's being stuck behind Strodbeck and co here in front of him. So far, I really haven't seen a whole lot of hard attacks, and I'm kind of wondering if Thunhorst is thinking like you're thinking, Dawson, is just hold on to his tires and wait for the race to come to him.
Yeah, and I think these 3 extra laps in these hotter temperatures really do make a difference. You know, I remember this time last race, it seemed like we had 3 or 4 guys all going at it for positions. And this race now seems so much more relaxed, so much less battling. Everybody's content to just ride for now. So I think we're seeing a lot of guys learn their lesson from that first race, and are now trying to make those tires work for them, as we have a pass on screen.
Yeah, this was Justin Morton and Dick Mueller. It looked like Dick Mueller just let Justin Morton go, which is very interesting because Dick was keeping Justin at bay for quite a while. So Justin Morton able to make the pass there, and this was Dick just pulling over and letting him by.
Well, it could be he's thinking long term. If he feels like the car is maybe stronger at the end, he doesn't want to try and defend and burn things up using unusual lines here at this point in the race, because he is holding behind him, to be fair. Morton's not, Mueller's not letting Morton go. Dick actually, well, and you know, the other thing too is that Dick Mueller started in 12th. Even with the overtake he just experienced, he's up in 9th. So he's gained 3 positions. He's probably thinking, I'm still a net gain. Behind them, there is some side-by-side battling between Prado and McGreevy. McGreevy there in the purple Orthodox car. He's fully clear by the time they get to the braking down into Hans Ernst. And even though he slides it a little bit deep, looks like he's got it safe now.
Yeah, this might open the door up for Trevor Clement, who's actually right behind them in that Route 66 racing machine. And he's going to try and do something here on this front stretch if he can get a good run on Paul Prado. He's just got to set it up right. And this is one of the hardest corner exits onto a straight in iRacing service. So let's see whether he does it.
He gets a decent run here, actually. The 93 is going to be under threat. Does he go defensive? He starts to drift over, but Clement's going to drift farther. He's going to take it very, very shallow, all the way down to the inside, into the braking. Even though that compromises his racing line, he looks very strong. They're going to be side by side off of Tarzan. Can he keep his nose in there into Gerlach, which is going to be critical to completing the pass because it switches back now, and he's going to be on the outside. Clement is going to make him work hard for it, but Prado works hard enough, and he retains 12th place.
Well, fantastic defense from Prado. Great job hanging it out there on the outside. That's really hard to do. And it's also really rough on your tires, so we'll see whether Clement has another opportunity to come back at him here.
And Waring almost was under attack from Eric Smith. He took a look on the inside of Masters of all places. Very swift kink to the right. And thankfully he didn't actually attempt it, because not often that actually works out going too wide. They continue this train of 5. No change of position since we last looked. Waring going from defense to attack pretty quickly, because he's caught back up to his teammate Travis. Not seeing any look to the inside down here into the corner. A little peek as well from Eric Smith, though.
You know, and we thought maybe Waring was the one holding up this train last time, and we thought, I was thinking at least, maybe with the switch in position that we saw earlier, maybe we see one of them drive away, but no, the train has still been the same, so I think that shows you just the same pace that both of these guys have, and how close they're going to run probably for the rest of this race.
Looks like Andrew Waring getting a little bit off track there on the exit. That's not going to slow him down too much, though. I've seen Eric Smith has been very aggressive on the brakes recently, and look who's more aggressive. Brian Straubeck also almost getting in the back of Eric Smith. We're seeing this a lot into turn 1, but look how close Eric Smith is to Andrew Waring as they go through these sections.
A little bit too close. He can't do much there up and over the crest of Gerlach, so he stays behind. Oh, and Clement got Prado finally. Just past him in turn 1, similar to last time. In fact, almost a carbon copy, except for the fact that Clement actually managed to seal the deal.
And these guys are very close together. Eric Smith really putting the pressure on. He's definitely looking for a place to pass. Let's see whether he takes the opportunity. He's going to look to the inside this time. Andrew Warren's just going to dive it down and cut across his nose. Eric Smith having to back out of it. This gives an opportunity to Straubeck if he decides to take it. He decides not to, staying a little bit too far back there in order to get that pass done. But they're all spreading out as they snake across these switchbacks.
I've noticed a lot of guys taking different lines through there, and I think it definitely depends on the run you get out of that corner to how wide out you go. So really interesting to see them all kind of snake out and then get right back in line.
Yeah, it seems like everybody wants to try and use it as soon as they feel like someone could be disadvantaged. But so far it hasn't borne any fruit, interestingly. We're getting close to the halfway point now as well. So does anybody feel like they've saved enough tire to maybe go a little bit more aggressive? The temperatures has continued to rise, rather. It's up to 97 degrees Fahrenheit at this point on the track surface. We just got a little bit of cloud cover at the end of the track. We just saw them come out of, and that could save their tires a little bit on that long acceleration zone. They break into Tarzan once more, and they accordion together with no position change. This is all for third place, and we've been watching it almost since the very start.
You know, this has kind of been the theme of the race, is these trains that we've been seeing. It kind of reminds me of another broadcast we do here on GSRC, the ABL Skip Barbers at tracks with those long straightaways. They all kind of get into these drafting lines and sit in a train. So kind of the same thing happening here with these TCR front-wheel drive Audis.
The big difference.
And Dawson, do you think that's kind of what's going on with Matthew Thunhorst? Do you think he's trying to just save his stuff behind these guys, or is he really pushing?
You know, I think he could be doing both. I think both are really plausible, but with how hard it is to pass here, I think there really isn't a really good passing opportunity here right now. I think his best position is to wait for a mistake from one of the guys in front and just to capitalize on it. But right now, if you're a driver, you're hitting your marks. You're making sure you're not the one making that mistake to drop you farther back from Straubeck and getting out of this train.
Well, as this continues on, an update on the leaders. We mentioned that Driscoll had it down to half a second. It is now 1 second between Challoner and Steve. So he's losing a little bit of ground here, and he saw this happen last race. So, and we did hear Steve say that, well, I'm content with second because I know that's the best I can do. So I guess at this point, he's probably just going to try and take it to the end.
That's kind of an interesting mentality to think that second's the best you can do, especially when you're 0.5 seconds behind the leader. It's just one of those moments where, you know, it makes me think about each different driver's competitive spirits and how they pace themselves and keep their expectations realistic. But some drivers know that if they try and go for the win when they're really not up for it, they can often get into a situation where they'll overdo it and maybe wreck out a competitor, and that's the last thing you want to do, especially when you're in a team race like this and you're right now listed 2, 3, 4 on track.
Yeah, that has got to be encouraging, and I have to imagine the UDOX team is in a TeamSpeak or a Discord somewhere and are communicating with one another so that they know that they've got this good result in their hands if they just hold on to it and play the safe game. So far, they've actually been doing pretty good playing the safe game. Really, the only bad things we've seen from UDOX so far this race is the start for Warling the second time in a row. And then, of course, the off track for Warring is down to the inside. Here comes Eric Smith. He pulled this off last time. He doesn't pull it off this time, though.
Look at how deep Travis Warling went into the corner. This makes Andrew Warring have to back up a little bit. This makes Smith really have an opportunity. He's going to look to the outside here. They're going to get really tight as they go to the next couple of corners. Oh, contacts between Eric Smith and Andrew Warring.
Teammates coming together. This is not what they want right now, but they still manage to hold Smith back. And in all of this, Strodbeck doesn't manage to do anything either. I thought for sure maybe he could try and sneak in as we're all distracted with one another. They come around to the front stretch, and there's another move we saw last time from Eric Smith trying to get to the inside of Lyondike, but it repeats itself, and in fact, that causes a horrible exit out of the final corner. Now Brian Strodbeck is seeing the door open, but can he get his foot through? He's to the outside. He's been strong on the brakes, but so is Eric Smith. They actually glance doors against each other, and eventually Brian Strodbeck gives up the ghost.
And just like that, we're back to exactly the way we were before. Of the running is exactly the same, but man, the story is a lot more complicated than.
You know, and I thought maybe Thunhorse was going to take a look to the inside of Strodbeck after being on the outside of that turn one, but no, he was not able to get it done. So like you said, we're back to square one with just about 12 laps to go here left in this race, and we're going to see plenty of other opportunities, I'm sure, come out of this train.
Boy, Smith continues to be right underneath Andrew Warring. I think now is his go time. This is the most we've seen him hold right there. And this is where he likes to do it sometimes, into Vodafone. They're coming out of Renault. If he gets the launch, he's looking for it. You can see, oh, Warring knows it this time. Warring doesn't even drift over to the racing line. He immediately stays exactly where he is.
And look how much time he lost to Travis Warling by doing that. Andrew Warring losing about half a second to Warling by doing that move. So that defensive move, while necessary, has made him lose a lot of time, which he's trying to gain back down the deep braking zones. But look how close Strodbeck is to Smith.
Oh man, I was just gonna say he was right up his tailpipe there, looking for somewhere to go. But again, just these tight confines of this track. Maybe get a good run here. Smith going to take another look into turn one. We will see. Gets into the draft of that 336 car. Looks like he's got
one too.
Yeah.
He's going to go to the inside, but so does Warring, covering him off. Both of them entering very, very shallow. Here comes Strodbeck. He actually gets his nose in, but has to back out as he's chopped off by Eric Smith. I don't know how they got out the other side of that corner.
This is fantastic. This is TCR racing at its best. These guys really duking it out, putting the cars on the edge of grip these tires will give. Fantastic driving from everybody. Matthew Thunhorse just looking on at these battles, really just expecting the same thing you are, Joe, that someone's going to send it in too deep at some point, and there's going to be a wreck.
There's only so long they can battle this hard with one another. I feel like something's got to give. There is immense respect between them. You can tell. I haven't seen any untoward moves, but it is aggressive at this point. They know that points are on the cards here, and they've got to try and do what they can to get a few more in this second race.
That just showed.
Unfortunately, we didn't report earlier on, but ever since the very start, Callisto never made it back out to the track from that opening incident. Sorry, go ahead, Dawson.
Yeah, no, it just shows you the quality of these drivers here. I mean, if you don't think that, this is one of the premier, these are really great drivers here on this iRacing series, all class acts that they have here in the major series, clean racing. I know Mike has really been a promoter of wanting to keep racing clean, and boy, it's really showing right here. Just great racing in this cars.
And just to give you an update on the lead, we have Christian Challoner, Steve Driscoll. Christian Challoner's been able to pull almost another half second on Steve Driscoll, so it's 1.4 at this point. So Steve Driscoll starting to fall back in this hot weather.
Yeah, it's looking like it's just going to simply be a repeat of last round. Christian Challoner said he really had to get into the rhythm, and last time he did. This time he's doing it once more, but there's still quite a bit of racing left to go. Just about 10 laps next time by. We've been focusing so much on the front, we haven't really looked at the mid-pack where we've got Prado and Brian Barnes, who seems to have connection problems once again, fighting hard and close, which is not what you want when your car is dancing around that way.
Yeah, Prado trying to run away with Brian Barnes because of the connection issues. The last thing you want to do, but we're going to go take a look at Mueller, who is really hung right under the back of Morton. Morton up one position from where he finished last race in that 8th position, and Dick Mueller not letting him go.
Making sure and keeping the pressure on to Justin as they work their way now through Renault. We're well past halfway on this race, and coming out of Vodafone, this is where Mueller needs to get himself a much better run to get closer to the back of Justin Morton. Track kind of bends to the left here, up and over a crest, blind when you get to the braking marker here down into Hans Ernst, and they're both going to handle it well. A little bit of a gain though from Dick Mueller. He's got it down to 0.4 of a second now.
Yeah, in another position. Go ahead, Dawson.
Yeah, I just love this camera here. You can see the dirt on the car, just how realistic this looks here on this iRacing series.
Yeah, another guy, Joe, who's closing up is actually Trevor Clement's closing up onto the back of Scott Corbin for 10th position. This has been a battle that's been brewing for a little bit. Trevor Clement doing a great job hanging out right in the tire tracks of Scott Corbin, much like Dick Mueller has been with Justin Morton. And all he needs is just one little mistake from Corbin in order to sneak his way through.
Well, you talked about that Road 66 team that has formed up out of the ashes of the Alliance team. You can continue to see the talent that is there, even though it may be under a different name. The ability is shining through. So as Trevor stalks Scott Corbin in the 54, looking to see if he can get into the top 10. Not going to get a chance, at least up here into Shevelock. He's too far back for this one. But boy, is Corbin using all of the track. We can see him kicking up dirt at the edge with how close he's getting to the boundaries of the surface. Oh, we got to go to Smith because he's taking another look on Waring. And once again, it was into Vodafone, but once again, it didn't work. This time, though, he gets the exit off, and he's going to get overlap, but he's on the wrong side of the first apex. If he can keep it there as they come into Hans Ernst for the hairpin portion of this odd chicane, he's not going to, but he could have maybe had the chance to keep this battle going.
I totally agree. He backed out there. He knew better. With 10 to go, he's got plenty of opportunities. I've been watching him. He's looked, Vodafone, he's looked there the last 3-4 laps. He's been trying to make that move there. And I think when it comes down to it, he's going to keep it in that corner and try and make that move a lot more difficult for Waring.
Yeah, but the question is, Dawson, has Eric Smith shown all his cards? Has he pulled the ace out of the hole and it hasn't worked yet? I mean, like, how many more opportunities does he have? He has a mistake here. Everyone's going to bottle up and nobody's going to change positions again.
Wow. But I think that's a perfect illustration of how hard it is to pass at this track. It's really known for it. It'll be interesting to see how things are when Formula One eventually comes here and see how the banking does to try and help that. And we almost had a pass for Prado and Barnes. In fact, I think we're going to get it now because Barnes is going to pull it off, getting himself into 13th.
Yep, so Paredo's gonna be able to make it past Barnes. Is gonna position Rob Gall to be able to make it past as well. And they've actually got a nice little train behind them with Johnny Nichols, Brian McGreevy, and Alessandro Dalladone as well stuck in behind.
So some great battling down here in the middle of the field as well. Paredo, does he have a little bit of damage on the car? Is he missing his hood?
Joe Smith is getting into the back of Andrew Waring right now. Smith is getting pretty impatient. That was pretty aggressive blocking from Waring. And a nice little bump of reminder, hey, I don't like being raced that way by Eric Smith. Things are getting hot by these guys.
Wonder if they have similar rules to short track oval racing here in the States, that one bump is a I'm here, 2 is a warning, and 3 means you're getting moved out of the way. Andrew Waring has gotten his warning now with a shove from behind from the 32. In fact, he's awful close coming out of Lyondike. We ride on board with Smith, and I guess the nickname for Waring is Llama, but let's see if he's going to stick his neck out to defend. He will, and he's going to cover off the inside. Smith around the outside tries to outbrake him, but decides better of it, and he falls back in line.
Dawson, he's really putting the bumper hard to the back of Andrew Waring. How much does that upset these TCR cars? I know they're front-wheel drive, so you're not taking away the drivetrain like you do with a rear-wheel car, but I'm sure it does upset the car going into the corner.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's more just of how unstable these are under braking. I know we've seen it a couple times from Eric Smith. When he's hard on those brakes, you're going to see that tail end just kind of move in and out. A lot of the weight with the drivetrain being in the front is in the front. So we're going to go take a look at Corbin and Clement battling really close here on track.
Well, Clement just got the spot. It was into turn 1, but he managed to overtake, and finally, we've got the replay. Let's take a glance at it. I think he just got himself, he was a good run out of the corner following him. Just a slight defense from Corbin, and then he outbraked him nice and cleanly into Tarzan. Kinetic driver tries to fight back for a bit, but sees the writing on the wall. So that moves Clement up into the top 10 finally.
I know you were talking about how, F1's going to come here and how passing will go for them, and that's been the big talk is, we want more passing in F1, but I think the track like this, with how limited passing is, I think it makes those passes all that more special and all that more difficult. You see guys maybe push it where the car shouldn't be pushing, and I think we've really seen that today. It's been on a great display here in the major series all week.
We might want to go to 6 because I think Strodbeck is going to lose a position. The inside, Thunhorst has managed to get side by side. They are going to bang doors, and he shoves them out wide. Thunhorst waiting the long game to eventually capitalize and get into 6th.
Yeah, and this was Strodbeck and Thunhorst actually got really bad exits off of the final corner, but Thunhorst got the better exit, and he just sends it in deep on the inside, and look at the contact there, moves Strodbeck up a full line out of a corner. So very aggressive move from Thunhorst, but that's how you got to get it done around here at Zandvoort.
Don't need to go to it, but I can tell you that Paredo's not having a good day. He's lost another position to Rob Gall this time. And I think there is some severe damage on that number 93 that's hindering him.
When we saw the pace that Strodbeck had, he was right behind Smith, and now it just makes you wonder, what are the odds if he maybe burned up his stuff a little bit? Is Thunhorst going to have the good Michelin pilots left over here with 7 to go? Is he going to be a late mover here to go and take it to Smith? But right now Smith's going to try and take it to Waring. He's going to try and make another attempt. He really wants to go to that inside, but he's going to be forced to go to the outside.
Contact! Just a little bit. That's going to get Waring up out of sorts, but now Waring's on the inside, Smith on the outside through the corner. Who's going to get the better line off? Waring's going to wash Smith out into the gray. Good. Wow, what a defense.
You shall not pass. My goodness. Waring just not giving an inch at all. And another look to the inside, going to force him out wide. He's going to pinch him off. A little bit of a touch through there once more. Eric Smith, you can't fault him for trying because he's given it his darndest. But they come down the front stretch once again. This has meant that Clement has started to catch them. Looking to the outside, up into Tarzan. He gets down to the bottom before Thunhorst is able to get his nose in. So he's got to be careful. As hard as he's fighting, he's going to give a chance for Matthew to maybe try and go on the attack on him.
Dawson, we have 6 to go. When is Smith going to run out of patience here and just move Waring? He's getting pretty close to doing it already.
It's got to be coming. I think everybody knows, and I'm sure he does too. It's just a matter of time, I think.
Oh, you talk about look how close he's riding behind him too. Talk about a matter of time. Only I said it before. Is only so long you can keep doing this before something goes wrong between them. I hope that I'm not right though.
Oh! There, we thought it was. Maybe he missed his braking zone, but no. Smith going to keep it going, and I was just about to say, I mean, these guys are human. Mistakes happen. One of these times you're just going to get on the brakes too late and lock them up, and something bad is going to happen. You almost saw it right there.
And we heard from one of the drivers saying it's hard to see when you get close behind. So I think you're right. I think Smith maybe just lost sight of his visuals and couldn't hit his brake marker at the right time. So he backs it up, gives a little bit of space now. You can see them gapping each other by at least 2 car lengths. That won't give you a chance to pass, but maybe this will cool things down for Eric. Maybe he'll get another chance in the next 6 laps that we have left in today's endurance race.
We've seen Smith try and make that inside pass here on this final corner. I don't think that's the right move. I think Smith needs to back up that corner just a little bit and focus on getting a good run off. Trying to make a pass up here into turn 1. It looks like Richard McClure has had an off.
Yeah.
So has Jimbo Pfeiffer, yes. And we're watching on screen. That was an attempt from Matthew. Yeah, we're going to take a look at this replay because it's quite chaotic for these guys back in the back of the pack.
We want to stay with the replay afterwards because it stays chaotic as they're bunched in 5 together, almost side by side by side. There's the initial contact. Very, very... Oh, no, there was the second contact, and then they got turned around by someone else. Not sure who that teal car was. Stay with this. Watch them return to the track. Not in the most convenient of ways. And suddenly, they're among David Warner, Kevin Hill, and Brian Bennett as well.
Almost fought 3 wide there as they go through the final sector. Oh, this is beautiful stuff.
It's still close. Oh, there goes McClure off track. You may remember him from last race when he also went off track at one point, but he held it together and he's down the last, unfortunately. Hoping somebody caught that Simpsons reference somewhere. Anyways, as we continue to watch them fight, 4 down to 5 to go. Looks like the battle for 4th not going away. But look at the gap opening up between Warling and Waring now.
And this is exactly what you need to do as a teammate. Andrew Waring is being that rear gunner for his team. He's kept these guys at positions 2, 3, and 4 in unorthodox, and he's been doing it just all on his lonesome, keeping Eric Smith behind. This is exactly what you need to do as a teammate. We've seen Valtteri Bottas do it. We've seen Sebastian Vettel do it. We've seen everybody do it in Formula One. We've seen him do it in every form of motorsport. Oh, looks like Andrew Waring dipping a little bit of a tire into the dirt. That's going to open up an opportunity for Eric Smith. He's going to try and take it deep into the corner, but loses a little bit of traction himself. This puts Funhorst in a good opportunity, but Waring slow off the corners and Smith with a good run.
How long is Smith going to sit around here looking at that name Lama on the rear bumper? He's coming up behind him as they come into sheave lock, and he's not willing to risk it into this long banked right-hander. Maybe we could see it in the Masters. We've seen him look a couple times this race here. Not this time, though. He stays out of it. His favorite spot is coming up into Vodafone, but he's also run that one multiple times. Oh. What about it in Renault? A turn early for him. He manages to get there, but he's side by side. They almost come in together in contact. He switches over to try it into Vodafone. That doesn't stick either.
Adam, you talked about, maybe showing his moves too early. Well, he just pulled another one out of his pocket, and a little surprised to go a corner early. I'm sure we weren't expecting it. Is almost getting really close right there into the corner, hard left, get back onto the gas. Gonna have to wait another lap for Smith to try and make his move.
Well, Eric Smith is now on the defense because Thunhorst right underneath that rear bumper is going to get a much better opportunity than Smith is on Waring. So you're going to get a taste of his own medicine. They're coming down the front stretch, but I think that Smith is still looking like he is great off of Lyondike each time. This shouldn't be nearly close enough for Thunhorst.
I took a look behind them. Dick Mueller's right on the bumper of Justin Morton. He's tried this pass before, and he's going to try it again. He's going to dive down to the inside of one here. Justin Morton on the outside going to try and hold on to it. We've seen that work before, but Mueller's got a great exit. He's going to leave a little bit of room for Morton, but here they're going to switch back over to the right side again, and Mueller looks like he's got this position.
Oh, he left him just enough space on that little kink that leads up to Gerlach. And thankfully, Morton did not try and come across him. Meanwhile, behind them, did Corbin just get a spot on Antilli here? Well, looks like he's trying to fend him off, if anything, as Antilli is giving chase.
Eric Antilli's been struggling a little bit on corner entry. Scott Corbin looks like his tires have gone, so these two guys really struggling with different parts of their setups here and really battling one another for this 11th position.
Boy, you can see how much curb they can take on these cars too, really clattering over parts and bouncing around that front wheel drive machine. You look through that rear window and Tilly stays with it, but not quite what we've been seeing from the likes of drivers like Smith, where they are attacking at every single chance until he looks a little bit more patient. You can't keep patient too long. We're only 3 to go, and in fact, that's going to be 2 to go just now. Well, Travis Warling's had it much his own way since he's gotten to the front of this group, because Waring, Smith, and Thunhorst have been fighting a lot behind him, but now they're starting to reel him back in.
And at what point?
Due to Andrew Waring not having to defend as much from Eric Smith over the last couple of laps, so he's been able to catch up to the back of Travis Waring.
Eric Smith, he's had so many opportunities. He's been late on the brakes, really pushing the car. At what point maybe are his tires just getting to the point where he can't afford, and he's just losing grip and losing speed. His opportunities could very easily be up.
4 cars in a train. If you were watching earlier in this race, you might notice that it is one down from before, and that's because poor Brian Strodbeck has fallen away. I'm not sure if he got any damage from when Thunhorst went by, because he just seems to have lacked pace. There you see he's right there, the DBR driver, just nowhere to be seen. Oh, and things getting close once again between Smith, Waring, and Warling. Waring going defensive into Vodafone because he knows Smith is going to try something as soon as he gets a whiff at things. Doesn't quite pan out. They all fan across and come down to the braking for Hans Ernst once again.
Boy, it just looks like Smith is not as close to the rear as he was before last week, as he closes the gap a little bit.
Swinging across the track, now up into Kumho. And we get the white flag for these drivers because Challoner's already across the line. An even bigger gap this time of 5 seconds between himself and Driscoll. But what about these 4? What's going to happen down into Tarzan? Travis Warling's got a gap, but Waring does not. Smith, ooh, and he breaks early. Here comes Thunhorst. He's going to slide it across and actually hits Waring, and Smith is going to get the position by sheer dumb luck.
Oh, Thunhorst thought he was going to be able to go to the inside of Smith. Smith thought he was going to go to the inside of Waring. Oh, just the worst luck.
I think Thunhorst saw him break early and thought there was something there, but he just came across him too late, and as soon as he was in the grass, he was a bowling ball.
Yeah, and this is just one of those moments where you know it for about 4 seconds as you're coming in. You've got those front tires locked, and there's nothing you can do. You can't go left because that's where Smith is, so you have to keep going straight, and you know you're going to take somebody out. That is the worst feeling as a driver.
It's quite a 7-10 split, but I'm sure Smith doesn't mind too much. As we head to our leader, the 5-second gap between himself and Driscoll really won't matter that much. That's all that matters for Christian Challoner, is that he gets maximum points today. And with 2 more corners, he will make it a full 500 that he can get for both wins here at Zandvoort. That points lead is going to extend. He didn't wind up getting the America's Championship 2 seasons ago when he was fighting for it, but he's making a strong effort to make it win number 3 here today. Christian Challoner with the victory in the Netherlands. Driscoll with another second place to minimize the damage, and Travis Warling is going to come away with the 3rd this time.
Yeah. It looks like Dick Mueller is trying to hold off the recovering Andrew Waring. It looks like he's going to be able to manage to do so as they come off the final corner. Andrew Waring recovering to 8th position, or 7th position rather.
Going to be close between Corbin and Barnes here, but I think Corbin's going to have that 12th place. Only other close battle we've got in the field is Hayes, Deladon, and Schmeier. Schmeier's looking pretty strong, but not quite strong enough here off of Lyondike, so they are going to stay in order across the line. Rest of the field streams on through. 26 finishers instead this time, as we had 1 retirement out of both races. That's not too bad for a type of racing known for beating and banging. In the meantime, we are going to pound to the beats of the interlude music as we take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around because we've got more of our post-race show coming. welcome back to Zandvoort. After the second race of 2 here for round 4, Christian Challoner took maximum points in the race of the Netherlands. Steve Driscoll finished in second in both races as well, so that worked out well for him to try and minimize how many points he loses to the points leader. Travis Warling wound up on the podium this time. So a third place for him. Eric Smith worked very hard for that 4th place, but in the end, it wasn't his hard work that did it. It was just him avoiding an incident on the very last lap to get that 4th spot. Brian Strodbeck then moves up into a top 5, exactly where he started, and Matthew Thunhorst recovers back to 6 after that incident there into Tarzan on the final lap. Dick Mueller with a 7th place was followed home by Andrew Warren. Even though he had a rumbling in his tummy that only one thing could quench, it was not to be for him to get onto that 3rd spot. So 8th place for the 336. Justin Morton wound up in 9th, and Trevor Clement rounds out your top 10, climbing from 23rd.
Eric Intilly had a hard-fought battle with Scott Corbin, able to get by in the last couple of laps. Scott Corbin coming home in 12th position. Then we have Brian Barnes coming home in 13th, with Rob Gall in 14th. Brian McGreevy, not as good of a race this time, coming home in 15th position, with Johnny Nichols pulling himself up 4 positions to 16th place. Wade Hayes had a good jump up about 5 positions into 17th, with Alessandro Dalladone in 18th. Jeff Schmeier and Nick Kuhn round out your top 20.
Paulo Prito, I saw him. He had a little bit of a spin, but that was while the whole Fun Horse wreck was happening in turn 1, so we weren't able to see it, but it's something just to mention for him. He's going to finish 21st. Then Brian Bennett, David Warner, Richard McClure, 24th. Kevin Hill had problems early on in the race. He's going to drop back all the way to 25th. Then Jimbo Pfeiffer, and your only retiree this entire weekend, which I think is very impressive, Lionel Callisto, going to finish in 27th, 24 laps down. Joe.
And we've got our 4th place finisher to talk to first. We're going to bring in Eric Smith and talk about what was an almighty battle that lasted literally the entire race. Eric, you couldn't get away from that group, but you also couldn't seem to make any passes. And it wasn't for a lack of trying. My goodness, did you stick your nose in anywhere there was a hole?
Yeah, literally can't pass here. He got wise to my move in the last race. Didn't work.
So talk about what's going through your head on the white flag lap, though, because you'd been trying, and then suddenly the floodgates open, and not for anything you actually did.
Yeah, I was worried about wrecking Andrew the whole time, and wasn't. Yeah. Well, I knew he was going to defend turn 1 like he always does. I wasn't even going to try anything, and I saw Matthew make that dive in my mirror. I just held it wide. I'm like, oh God.
Well, you managed to hold on to it. You got that 4th place finish. What are your thoughts on this combination, especially this car? Because we haven't seen a front-wheel drive car in a while here on the majors. Would you like to see the TCR return?
It's a ton of fun, but also I kind of hate it at the same time. It's very frustrating to be faster than somebody and not be able to get around them for 20 laps. But yeah, I'd race it again. It's a lot of fun. I'm sure it's great to watch.
I can only imagine. Is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go for this weekend's good results?
Thank Mike for putting on this series. It's a lot of fun. The guys on the team, we kind of came together on the setup, even though it's not where it should be. It's better than it was. I was kind of out to lunch on this car about 3 or 4 days ago, and I found a little something, but still not quite where I. So 4th is as good as a win as far as I'm concerned.
Great stuff. That's Eric Smith, who is pretty pleased with that 4th, it sounds like. Up next, I believe we have Steve Driscoll. No, we do have it. We do have Andrew Warren. So the opposite side of that battle that we saw all race long, and I believe Adam is going to be talking to the llama.
Yeah, Andrew, not the finish you were looking for today, but walk us through the battle that you had with Eric Smith throughout most of this race.
Unfortunately, with my inexperience with the one major series, I kind of got a little overwhelmed, and I really struggled on pace, so that made me vulnerable to Eric pretty much the whole race. Race 1 was okay. He just kind of hunted me down, and then on the second last lap sent me and used me pretty much to turn the car. But race 2, I was kind of playing gunner to Travis. I knew how aggressive Eric was going to be, and I feel like I did a pretty clean job of holding him off the whole race. And then he did a lot better job in the second race of giving me room, and it was really nice racing. And then to be taken out at the very last lap there by Matt was just brutal. I don't know where he thought the braking marker was, but he just blew it.
Yeah, and one of the things we wanted to ask you about was you have llama on the back of your car. What is that a nickname that the team gave you? Or?
That's actually Travis. Travis Warling has llama. I have Monster, which is an old nickname from my PS4 days. But you'll have to ask Travis why he has llama. I'm not really sure why he's got that.
Well, yeah, definitely. And you had a decent shot at getting back Dick Mueller by the end of the race, but was your car just too damaged after the contact with Matthew?
I didn't want to do to Dirk what was happening to me all race. So if I didn't have a really clean shot, I wasn't going to do it. I'm trying to score points for a sportsman, the UDOC Sportsman's team. So being up in the top 10 in Pro Division gets some good points. I don't need penalties.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, not the finish you wanted today, but a good finish nonetheless, coming home in 8th. Thanks for talking to us, and we look forward to seeing you next round.
You guys too. Thanks for broadcasting. You guys did a good job.
Thank you. All right, that was Andrew Waring, and it looks like Dawson is in with Steve Driscoll, our second place finish.
Yep, Steve coming in. You had another shot at passing Challoner, and I know you talked about, trying to get past him and maybe making your move early, but it just didn't seem to be in the cards for you today.
Yeah, Challoner just I could get up to him about first 5-10 laps, and then it would just I would just lose a tenth after that chicane there, and he would just eventually just keep on walking away. But I was giving him everything I got because I noticed the third and the rest of the field was pretty far back. So I'm happy with it. Didn't lose a whole lot of points to Challoner, so pretty good week.
Yeah, and was there any difference performance-wise with this race? I know it was a lot hotter with this track being closer to noon. Did you feel like there's anything, if your car was better, worse, the same?
The car was pretty much the same performance-wise. It was just a lot greasier at the beginning of the race because I don't think the rubber was really in all that well. I noticed I struggled there the first 2 laps and tried to kill myself a few times there, but overall the race came to us, and I'm okay with second place. First loser today.
Yeah, well, it's nothing to be upset about. You're able to do it twice, so you were able to get really good points for yourself. And on top of that, Unorthodox, you guys had a great run today as a team. Talk about that a little.
Yeah, a great week for the team. For myself, the last 2 weeks last 2 races, I've been second place with a lap to go and gotten moved out of the way. I noticed one of my teammates got moved out of the way there in the last lap too, but that's going to happen with the TCR, and overall Travis, Andrew, everybody just really, and even Brian there coming up with I think P15 really allowed for a really good points day for us, and really sets us up for the remaining races in the series.
Yep, so next race you're going to go to the Coke 600 in the NASCAR Cup car. Are you looking forward to that?
Not really. I'm kind of a road guy. I kind of just try to survive the Cup races, but based off of Daytona and also Rockingham, I think Unorthodox come together as a team. I think we might have something for the field, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by, and you can make your thanks out to anybody you'd like to.
Yeah, I just want to thank Direct Innovations again. They've chipped in quite a bit for us to, do what we do this week, and, Simability, and just the rest of the Unorthodox guys. It's just been a great week. And I also want to shout out to Challoner. Great job this week. And also the organizers of the series. It's been a stressful week for everybody, and they've just done a great job putting the series together and putting on a fantastic race yet again.
All right, thanks for stopping by, Steve. That is your second place finisher, Steve Driscoll, coming in today. And Joe, I believe you caught up with Christian Challoner.
I have indeed, a winner both times back-to-back here today, and not sure if his stats are going to say he's now up to win number 4 or win number 3, but regardless, we know that he has certainly won this round. Christian, I mean, what is there to talk about? Because it was just a mirror image of the last race. You went out and did exactly the same thing and came out with another dominant win.
Yeah, I think the Unorthodox guys kind of helped me out a little bit at the start. They kind of got themselves shuffled around some, and that let me get out to a little bit of a lead. And every time, really, both races, Steve was really, really good on the short runs, and I knew I was kind of vulnerable there, so that helped a lot. And then kind of both races, once I got to about lap, I want to say around about halfway, so about lap 11 and 12 both times, I kind of realized he wasn't catching me anymore, and from that point it was relatively nailed on. But it looked easier than it was. Steve definitely ran me pretty good for that, and I think honestly, if the unorthodox guys had got better starts, and particularly if Steve had got better starts and maybe got ahead of me into turn one, it would have been really, really difficult to make a pass back on him. And I think unfortunately you guys kind of didn't really get a great race from that, because I was in the lead into turn one. But for me, best situation possible, make it as boring as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it always is. If you want to win without any dramas in the race. But if anything, this race could be a bad sign potentially for a driver's next round. If you were this dominant this time, we're going to your wheelhouse, quite literally. Charlotte in the Cup cars. Do the other drivers have reason to be concerned about what kind of performance we'll see for you next round?
Well, I think we got the All-Star race, which I believe is going to be with the Cup car on the Roval, so that should be a lot of fun.
Oh, I didn't know it was on the Roval. Interesting.
Well, I'm just guessing it's on the Roval. I'm just looking at the schedule right now, and there's clearly a picture of the Roval here. So if I get there and it isn't, I'll be disappointed. But but definitely, I think the All-Star race on the Roval, that should be fun. I enjoyed it last year when we ran it in the Coke series, so that should be fun for that. And I think Charlotte, especially that 600-mile race, that's one I always put a lot of effort behind, and we obviously have a Coke series race there too. So I think, really, I'm trying to bag a lot of points in this early part of the season, because I know when we get to the middle, say when we start doing things like the IR18 at Road America and the 410 Wing Sprint and definitely the Formula One car at Spa, those really don't play into my strengths. So I want to pick up a lot of points early so I don't kind of have to worry about those races.
Well, picking up points early is definitely what you've been doing, considering the performances we've seen. Is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to all the Kinetic guys. I know they put a lot of effort into it. Marco Margren did a bunch of work and was pushing me pretty hard in terms of practice times, and as well as terms of what I was doing in the car. I know he wasn't a great fan of the things I had in mind, and we had very different setups, both kind of got the same speed, so that worked out. And I'd like to give a shout out to you guys for being in the booth. It's a shame I'm not here. I really enjoyed doing this last year, but at the same time, I enjoy the competition. And again, I'd like to give a shout out to Steve Driscoll. I shouted him out last time at Rockingham, but he's doing a really good job, and he's really pushing me hard in these races, and that's making it a lot of fun.
Well, great stuff there from our winner in both races today, Christian Challoner. He says that he came here for a challenge, and one of our commentators, even during the break, says, I wonder if he's even really feeling like he's getting that challenge. So I guess that answers that question. Seems like Christian's getting pushed. We're going to close up, though, with once again a reminder of our charity before we go. That is the Latvian Children's Hospital, and we have a link in the description below if you would like to help donate to them. Of course, a big thank you to Mike for doing this each and every round, not only for the charity, but of course for organizing each race with his team that helps him get things done. Thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe to the channel. Very easy to do so if you just scroll below and click that big red button that says subscribe. You won't miss a moment here on IESN. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Sean, Adam, Dawson, and Dougie, of course. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We've got social media that you can reach out to us on. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support the channel, we've got our merchandise store also linked in the description below. It's just simply gsrc.storenv.com. And very much appreciate anybody who grabs some swag for us. As was mentioned, the next race is going to be at Charlotte. I need to double check to see if that is that All-Star race is going to be at the Roval, but do note that it'll be April 18th at 4:45 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.